listening to Tapped In, Buncombe County's half hour to empower on WRES 100.7 FM in Asheville. Listen up and get tapped into local important resources, information, and topics. Learn more about the topics of today's show at buncombecounty.org. Okay, it's time to get tapped in. Hello, hello, hello. And if you hear my voice, you know it is time to... I gotta give me a tapper. Yeah. Tapped in. I'm ZaKiya Rogers.
And I'm Leonard Jones.
And Leonard and I come to you from Communications and Public Engagement of Buncombe County, where the heroes wear capes.
Yeah, and so we are doing our part 2 with our public service department here at Buncombe County. So today we have Alex McKnight, the business manager over public safety communications. He'll be here to share some information about some of the great work that's happened in the 911 department within the county, as well as some other things in their department. So we're excited to have him. We had Dr. Osiris on here last week, and Alex is here to join to give us more information about some of our first responders out there. Welcome, Alex.
Yeah, welcome.
Glad to be here, y'all.
Thank you. And thank you for all that you did during the Helene recovery efforts. And you were on front line. And I just want to say thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It was a team effort. The whole department stood up and got ready for it. So I'll take that thank you to the whole department.
Yes. Give everyone our huge thank yous. And so during that time, 911.
How about let them tell about it?
Oh my gosh, yes. And you know what? I totally forgot.
Jump right into it.
I know, because I love this. Yeah. I get so excited about this department. Okay. Alex, tell us about yourself.
About myself.
Yeah, tell us who you are.
My name is Alex McKnight. Got 13 years with Buncombe County, all in public safety realm. I, about 13 years ago, started as a dispatcher, freshly moved here from New Jersey, so complete culture shock. So spent about 4 or 5 years with the sheriff's office as a dispatcher for 911. Done everything that you can do there, and moved on to other places as I grew in my career. And now I'm at 911, trying to get us to modernize as quick as possible and start tackling some of the challenges of 2025 and beyond.
Yes. And that's where I was taking, you said, I was talking about during the Helene crisis, we realized there were ways that we had forgotten that we need to learn how to communicate, especially when we lost communication. And I'm touching stuff, y'all saw that. With communication with each other and especially emergency services. What did your department learn in that during that time?
I think the better question is what we didn't learn. Yeah. We were inventing things on the fly. But to answer your question, I think the biggest takeaway that we learned is the power of relationships. In emergency management, there's a saying, you shouldn't be handing out your business cards during the storm. You should do it prior to the storm.
Yes.
And that was so prevalent during the storm. It seemed like, I forget the name of this class, but in emergency management, you'll be in this class and they will just throw scenario after scenario. Just when you're starting to get your arms around this scenario, what if the hospital, a sinkhole appears at the hospital, you're working that, and as soon as you got your arms around that, they're throwing you another one and another one. You can't win it. That's not the objective. The objective is for you to perform as best as you can, work your way through the problem and make smart decisions, lead on other people, delegate assignments, things like that. And that the Hurricane Helene felt like that. Every day was a new problem, a task, or something broke, or we did so many different things. I wouldn't even know where to start. I would tell you. But from finding out that our building is not big enough for us, our current space where we share our building with emergency services. There's no parking available. We have helicopters landing on the lawn. I've had to tow several prominent people's cars out of the way so I can put deployable first responder cell phone towers up, generators, things like that. We just learned a lot. We learned that we were not in the space to respond to something like that, and we need to endeavor to get into that space.
So I know with the storm, a lot was coming at us. Things were changing very rapidly. What's some of the support, especially for your staff? We know there was an article kind of talking about what our 911's experience going, taking in those calls in immediate aftermath of the storm and people in very kind of desperate situations. So what kind of support y'all got in there for the staff members?
So for our staff members, and you gotta remember, during the storm, several of our people were stuck at the building, sleeping there, working close to 24 hours, trying to give them a little break. Me and my team worked 20-hour days. But we kind of had the foresight going back a couple years that since 2020, it feels like we've been in like emergency mode, right? You have COVID, obviously. Then you have staffing crisis that all of 911, the whole industry experienced. We merged our 911 departments from the city of Asheville and Buncombe County, merged together. So when I came into that, where all these things have happened and we're stuck in a staffing crisis, one of the first things our leadership team did was take the company we use is Responder Support Services. They are therapists who either have been first responders themselves or military, something in public safety, or they've grown up in that their entire life. Like your mom, your dad, somebody was attached to that. So you speak our language, right? So that's one of the first things that we did. I want to say 2021 or 2022. We embedded our therapists. They're out there 2 or 3 days a week working with our squads, getting to know them, sitting elbow to elbow, basically. So this way, when our 911 call takers, dispatchers have a traumatic experience, you know this person's there. You're more likely to open up and talk to them. Okay. They have their phone numbers. If they're not there, you call when you're in a crisis and it's just too much right now, and you take a walk. You can meet off-site if you don't want to meet in the department. And we, per Responder Support Services, we're the first 911 center in the nation to do that, to actually embed therapists with that. Normally, you'll piggyback off of somebody else's contract, law enforcement or EMS or something like that. But we're the first ones as 911, as a center by itself, standalone center, to go and embed our own therapists with them. And they helped out drastically during the storm. We normally have like 1 or 2 therapists attached to us. We have about 6, 7, 8 therapists in there. They were sleeping there too. Wow. They were with us every step of the way. So.
And because that was a very heavy time, and I'm so glad that someone thought about that before this entire incident, because I think Helene has taught us so much about being prepared and staying prepared, and not getting prepared while it's happening, being prepared before it happens.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
I think one thing to say there too, to touch on the trauma a little bit. On normal days, 911, no one's calling 911 because they're having a good day. So you're gonna hear traumatic things all day long. So when it's an event like that, and it's your home, like we have a couple dispatchers in there who lost their homes doing this, and they have to stay here, and they don't know if their family is okay, and still do their job day in, day out, even when it's to the point of where they don't have any help to send, when we're maxed out in responders. So it was very traumatic for a lot of these folks. We can get into it later if you want, or but I don't want to down be a down or anything like that.
But that's the realness of what our folks have gone through.
Absolutely.
And what responders in general
still going through too. There's some of us, we have a debrief after every traumatic event, where you can come and talk about it. That, I think it was last month, I can't remember, but it was very long after. You're supposed to have a debrief right after, but everybody was having a debrief. So we like to use outside resources like Responder Support Services to come and do it. So it's not your boss is telling you, well, tell me how you really feel. I'm like, I don't really like how you handled that. It's not one of those situations where you have an outside person doing it, but the need was so great that they're just now getting to process things after they've taken care of their home, after our center took a little bit of water damage. So we're rebuilding, or we're fixing instead of rebuilding. But yeah, my overall point is they're just now beginning to start processing. You're starting to see some people leave the field. It's like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want another Hurricane Helene, and you know, with climate change and all that type of stuff, we're probably gonna have another one of these.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things, like, we know we hitting the 7th, 8th month since the storm been here. Spring is here, so things are blooming. But I think it's one of those things that we continue to have these conversations around how we immediately responded to the storm, because there are a lot of nuggets. I love the idea that you just shared around embedded therapists. We think of a lot of different kind of careers, and especially for our listeners out there, how do you impact that? We think of the impact COVID and the storm had on kids in school. So that embedding those, I think that's just having these conversations, that's a better way for Buncombe County to be more resilient in the future, and not waiting so long to have these conversations that we kind of forget what happened. So I'm glad you're here. I want to bring up something that you had mentioned earlier. We often hear about first responders, and you just think firemen, policemen, especially after 9/11. It's great to hear there's more involved in this process of who are first responders. We heard a lot around essential workers during COVID.
Yeah, right.
So can you share just the idea around the first responder with the 911 department and the services that they provide? And also, you mentioned a merger. You can give us some more details around the merger with the city and the county around that.
So first I'll start with your first one, with first responders. So, police, fire, medical, emergency managers, they're all of our brother and sister. We do this thing together. None of us don't do it by ourselves. 911 is that connective tissue between all of those different disciplines, every discipline really, and so much so that we get called the first responders. I'm like, if you're out on the road, you don't hear about it unless I tell you about it, right?
Yes.
I think this stat may be old, but I know when I was working the 911 floor, it was like close to 80-ish% of the call volume that we get, like 500,000 calls a year. We handle that. Like, it's information, or it's okay, this is not necessarily a crime, or this is not something that we need to get to a field unit. Like, you just need to know where resources are. Like, well, let me tell you, I have 6 screens in front of me. I can look this up for you. So us being first responders recognize that by that from every discipline. We're not always recognized from that at a state or federal level. We still carry the classification in many areas as secretaries.
Oh.
I can tell you from, I've worked with.
Oh my God.
When I found that out, like, I can't remember, like maybe 8 years ago, I was like,
wow.
What? I've worked with Interpol. I've worked with Mexican law enforcement. I've worked with like Secret Service.
That feels kind of bad, because like when they call teachers glorified daycare,
like childcare,
childcare, and I was like, that's not babysitting.
When you do like the most important jobs, investing into the next generation, or helping protect public, the residents and visitors. I think we have like 11 million visitors to Buncombe County every year. I don't know why we don't take care of, or at least talk better about our frontline people. Yeah. But I will always be the flag toter here. Like, hey, it's a lot more than what you think it is. The 911 TV show gets close, but it's not all the way there. We do a lot of work there, and it's only going to be more as the technology increases. Right now when we answer phones, you can track and do all the different types of things now. But what we're seeing the industry move to is not just text to 911, but video to 911. Where you're on a crash, and here, I'm not going to describe it to you, I'm going to show it to you. Which, Leonard, to your point, that's more trauma, because now we're seeing it. But we're able to gather that information better and get that to the first responders better. Also having a increase in the likelihood of, hey, listen, if I could show you what you're headed to, you know exactly what you need to do when you deploy out your medical bag.
Very true.
So we might increase life safety, with those things. We have those things coming. The industry's looking pretty crazy with the things that they're getting ready to do. Come out. Some of it's a little bit scary, some of it's like about time. But yeah, so as first responders, first responders recognize us as first responders. You probably will be hard pressed to find someone, a field unit, not call us first responders and treat us like first responders. We just came off of National Telecommunicators Week, where we recognized, and they all, Black Mountain, so many other different agencies came out and gave us food, really took care of us.
Yeah.
And
That's good.
our community is pretty good about that. So they recognize it. I'm just hoping that state and federal governments recognize that.
Yeah. I think if we keep elevating it, it'll get there.
Sure.
Yeah, because we gotta keep talking about it and really saying, hey, this is how we get the information. This is the highway. All the rest of us, we're very important side streets and roads to get to other places. But if we don't have this highway, we can't get there because they hold the information. And so I think it's so important that we keep uplifting you guys. And I thank you. Have you ever had to call 911?
Not that I can remember.
Well, I
off the
had
top
to
of
call
my head.
911, and they are absolutely amazing. I did not remember how many people would show up, and so all of a sudden at 3:00 in the morning, it was like a lot of people in my house, and I was just like, yeah, I was just worried about my blood pressure, and it's the fire department. Yeah, they were feeding me baby aspirin and talked to them, blood pressure was off the chain, and then the police came in, and I was like, fire department, EMS, and the police. And so I was like, I could have sworn the lady told I just needed an ambulance, but I was just like, I think they were like, no, let me make sure. But they got me into the ambulance, and everything was fine. They were just very nice. They were very worried about my situation, and they assured my husband they were gonna take care of me because I have a little kid.
Sure.
And I was like, don't wake her up, don't let her know anything. Let her just tell her I left him with work early. You take care of everything, and they took great care of me. I mean, it was very reassuring, even from the phone call. They knew exactly, what to ask, and it wasn't like I didn't feel like I was being rushed or being a pain.
Sure.
So yeah.
So what we try to tell our new telecommunicators coming in is that this is a life-saving organization.
Oh yeah.
Right? And so I'm going to tell a very funny story about myself. When I first came into this thing, kid fresh out of college and everything, I'm going to come in, I might talk on the radio.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to watch some TV, and I'm definitely going to eat some donuts.
Yeah.
That was my plan.
Yes.
Okay. And I walked in my first day, walking in onto the floor and seeing like there's no space here without a TV or a monitor on it. Like this person's talking on the radio and taking a 911 phone call at the same time with both, you're listening out of both ears, typing, working on multiple things at the same time.
Wow.
I was like, it was almost like I walked onto like the set of the Star Trek, and I was like, I've grossly underestimated this profession. So I always like to stress that in our interview process, like this is a life-saving organization.
Yeah.
You will have to work hard and really empathize with people and really know all the intricate things that you never would think that you'd have to know to care for a community. And when it's a massive event like Helene, like we need 110% out of it. Something like that.
So I know there is a non-emergency number.
Yeah.
And then use 911. What is the non-emergency number, and who answers that?
828-250-6670 is that non-emergency number. I had to use that this weekend. And the same people answer it. It's just the non-emergency one. We have a limited amount of lines for our 911 system, and I have been on the floor when that has been overwhelmed.
Yeah. I bet they fight over that non-emergency button, doesn't it, when it come up, the non-emergency call. Like you see all of them like running.
I mean, when you first start out, so fun fact, it takes 6 months to train a telecommunicator and 18 months before you're effective, right?
Wow.
So when you first start out, you might be clicking on that non-emergency because I'm terrified of what could be on that, 911 line or whatever. But once you get, reach your veteran status a little bit, I want the 911 line. You know, at least I know this is going to be something. I don't know what the admin line is going to be. You know, it could be a lost cat to, you know, a lost, you know, senior citizen to someone reporting a spaceship fell out of the sky. All of these are true stories, by the way. You know,
oh my God.
yeah, you never know what you're going to get with an admin line.
So 911 or none 911. A bear is in my yard and I can't get into my house.
Oh man, stay in your car. Leave.
I didn't say they were driving. They were walking. They're not in their car. Well, we have 10 minutes left, so there's a bear in my yard. What do I do?
You can call if you feel like you're in danger. You can always call 911.
Okay.
I don't want to steer anybody away from that. But if you want to call the non-emergency number, we can get you patched with the wildlife office, and they can walk you through what the safe steps to take. Just don't put yourself in any danger. You know, don't make it an emergency call.
What's that non-emergency number again?
It's 828-250-6670.
6670.
Leonard, you want to ask a 911 or non-911 question?
I can't think of nothing off the top of my
Car
head.
accident in the parking lot.
Is it injuries or just property
No
damage?
injuries, but they are screaming and hollering at each other because it's Walmart.
Because if it, we got a lot of experience with that. So that to me, depending on how that phone call goes and what I'm picking up past the person who's talking to me, that might be a civil disturbance.
Okay.
You know? So maybe 911 to get some units out there quickly.
Okay, and I know we had asked the question. So the merger that happened between the city of Asheville as well, and then also just while we in this last kind of like 10 minutes, tell us about some of the modernization. I know you talked about video, as well as some other things in your department.
So the merger, I'm blanking on the date where we merged, but we merged in the old world. It used to be 911 in Buncombe County was 3 different departments.
Yeah.
It was EMS and fire was one section. Buncombe County Sheriff's Office was another section, and then Asheville Police Department was its own section. And slowly over the last 5 to 7 years, I want to think, EMS and fire and Buncombe County Sheriff's Office merged into one department. And then during the COVID times, Buncombe County and Asheville Police Department merged. And when that happened, that was like immediately the same time the staffing crisis happened. So it's all hands on deck. You know, management is on the floor answering calls, things of that nature. That was a very tough time for 911 because you didn't have the leadership looking up and out and trying to get around problems. We were just trying to make 911 work at that time.
Okay.
So for that time, we pioneered a lot of things. If you're familiar with travel nurses, we reached out to a company that was freshly started up that did travel dispatchers. And we got, I think we might have been first or second in the state to do that, to partner with that and have them come and plug our holes while we train up new staff and hire new staff, things of that nature. And then to your other part of your question is about the modernization of 911. We're playing in that right now, right? Where we've got to get our staffing under control. The whole nation is going through that. This is not just an us problem. Just COVID opened our eyes to a lot of things. One of which, what I'm really excited about, and I don't know when or if the state will approve this, because we're based on the state, we're regulated for that. But giving our staff the ability to call take from home, and then in the future dispatch from home, I think that would open us up to a number of people out there who might not have looked at 911 before, but now taking a second glance at that.
I think that'd be like a great option for someone who still wants to work, but they may not have the mobility to work.
Right.
But like and that way they could still feel very important in a part of the community.
Very true.
Yeah, 100%.
But that's not where we at yet.
We're not there.
No, I was just thinking about like the people we serve.
Right.
In our community.
We're not there yet, but I mean,
but it's
one day
we are building out. I mean, if we got the green light right now, we could do it next week.
Oh, okay.
But we gotta get approval and things like that.
Cool.
So yeah, call taken from home, dispatcher from home. There's lots of departments who are becoming more involved with the drones and with drones being the first responders too. You know, we're imagine a world you have a medical situation happen on your street. Person's, you know, they're having a cardiac issue, and while I'm talking to you on the phone, I'm also deploying a drone that's bringing an AED to you.
Oh wow!
And you could just attach to that. How many more lives could we save that way?
Yeah.
You know, so there's all types of things. AI, Buncombe County 911 is already field testing. Has been field testing AI for 911. You call her non-emergency number. Her name's Violet, and Violet will ask you, "What can I help you with today?" And based off of what she says, she'll route you to wherever you need to go.
Okay.
You know, just expanding more of that. There's a bunch. I could keep going. I think you said 10 minutes ago. 10 minutes ago.
Yeah. I mean, that's just very interesting. I think it just opens up so much for our people in the community because it gives us more opportunities to connect when we look at other ways to employ our folks in our community.
And people using their skill sets.
Yeah.
Because a lot of stuff you talked about made me think of an individual that may be a techie. That's really into technology and stuff like that. And even though communications may be something they kind of shy away from, but that technology piece and as you know, safety communications is a very broad kind of thing as well. So it's good to have these conversations for young people to see themselves.
So one thing that we learned during the storm, right? We didn't learn this during the storm. We knew it. It was reinforced during the storm. Is without communications, you cannot have a battle. You cannot, all you have is a bunch of people doing things, not coordinated without communications, right? And that's why communications always sit so close to leadership. And when you have like a emergency operations center, you have someone from communications sitting there always. But yes, you're 100% right. 911, the whole industry is very techie, it's moving that way, and we need to move that way as well. You know, there's a lot of innovation that comes with tech. A lot of data that we can use outside of emergencies to help make our community a safer place. That could be used by, you know, so many other departments too, you know, from elections office to the planning department, things like that. So I'm excited because, you know, I remember coming in and, you know, us having more, the table was made more of duct tape than anything else. You know? And now switching over to all of the advancements that we have and knowing that we can go a lot farther. I'm pretty excited for that.
Yes. All right. So give us something that you feel like that we were not able to touch on that you want to leave with our community.
Sure. I will say this. 911 now more than ever is a career. It's not I'm gonna do this until I can get to the road. It's not I got in trouble on the road, I'm gonna sit here and time out for a little bit. It's an actual career. We're building out positions. Myself is a perfect example of that. I started as a dispatcher 13 years ago. I am now a business manager, you know, responsible for $10 million of taxpayer money. I never would have thought that I would have got here from there, you know, if you asked me that 13 years ago. But it is a career field, it's an expanding career field, and it's a great way to serve your community, protect your community, and give back.
Leonard.
And I'd just like to say, as we want to mention, you know, the 911 community, they are our first responders. They're actually the first responders to situations. So yeah, if this is sound like something you know someone that'd be interested and have a skill set, always look towards that. As we hear, it's always a hiring kind of shortage around this area. So, you know, individuals, please encourage them to look into this as a possible career. And as always, if you find yourself in an emergency, don't hesitate. You can always call 911. But if you have those non-emergencies, we would like to just highlight our non-emergency number, which is 828-250-6670.
Correct.
And so we just want to put that out there.
Yes, and this is ZaKiya, and I just want to encourage community to access the services within our community, research our services. You can look on to buncombecounty.org .org. We're still at .org, right? Because we're going to be moving to Gov soon, but we're still .org, everyone. And just look at the services that are provided on our webpage. It's important that you're aware of these things. And I think you can also, I think your picture is on there somewhere. Alex, I can't remember.
Probably for one
yeah.
position,
So
yeah.
if you want to see the guy that's giving you all this information, he's on there. But it is so important that you all, hear these things. I think a lot of times we hear about services and we're not having a connection with them and all the things they do. One thing I also want to say is that when you do have to call 911, make sure you give your name. Make sure you state it clearly. Make sure you tell them where you are.
Most important.
Yes. And the phone number, just in case you get disconnected. Those things are so important because this is not the TV show. Your life does not pop up on the screen with your face and everything as you're talking. That is not how it works. And so we do these things to bring reality to the community where TV shows have brought fantasy. We wish that could happen. And so, and then once again, we're always one Buncombe, and we're going to make sure that we take care of our community. And so from us to you, you've been tapped in. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to Tapped In, Buncombe County's half hour to empower, here on WRES 100.7 FM in Nashville. Learn more about today's topics at buncombecounty.org. Otherwise, stay tuned for more great episodes coming up.